All right, so let's try this again. This is my first try with you guys, eighth and ninth period. So if it's terrible, I apologize. Most likely won't be because you guys just know it's pure awesomeness happening in this classroom. Anyhow, we're gonna move on to the quadratic formula today. The quadratic formula is a follow-up to completing the square because it allows us to solve all quadratic functions and equations no matter what. So we could technically, if we really wanted to, never factor again and never complete the square again. However, you guys know me, I'm going to make you do those again, so don't feel like those are just going to go away. Right? You need to make sure that you still know how to do all of them. And sometimes, and a lot of times, factoring is still a faster option than the quadratic formula. Okay, but the quadratic formula, what it is, okay, um, you can see it in the box there, all right, and let me highlight it for you. This right here is the quadratic formula, all right? You'll hear me say it a couple ways. First, you'll hear me say x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The reason that I say opposite of b is because if it's already a negative, I want to make it a positive. So I hate saying the word negative b plus or minus. Sometimes we get the assumption that it should always be negative, and no, it's just it should be the opposite of whatever the original sign was. So be careful with that. Okay. So where do these letters come from? Where does B come from? Where does A come from? Where does C come from? Okay. Those come from our general equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay. So the other thing is these always have to be equal to 0. So notice the example that they did here, how it's equal to 8. Okay, they moved it over by subtracting, so now it's equal to 0, and hence they have it written in standard form. Okay. Second piece then is identify what is a for my equation. So what's the number in front of the x squared? They have 3. What's b, the number in front of the x? It's 5. And then what's c? What's the constant? And it's negative 8 for them. Right? If you ever get to a problem where there is a piece missing, don't put nothing there. You have to put a 0. You have to represent it somehow. Okay. So put a 0 in if it's missing. Okay. Example, like if I would give you 2x squared plus 5, right? There's no b value. There's nothing in the middle. So you would just put b equals 0 for that problem. All right. So that's just a little example of what would happen if you'd be missing something. Okay. So you're literally just going to plug the numbers in. Okay. They plugged in 3, or they plugged in b is 5, so negative 5 plus or minus square root of b again. 5 squared minus 4 times a was 3, and c was negative 8. Okay. The next thing they did is they did all the stuff that's under the radical in one shot. And that's a good idea, guys and gals, to do that first before you even try to do the square root. Okay. Because you guys know me, no decimal answers, so if it's a square root and it doesn't come out to be a perfect square, you're going to have to reduce it, right, using our rules. What number on my list, blah, 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 blah. You guys know that. Okay, so they get 121. So then they do the square root of 121 is 11. And then notice how they broke it into two separate problems, right? Problem 1 with a plus sign, problem 2 with the minus sign. So they got an answer of 1 and an answer of negative 8/3. Okay, so we're going to do that same idea for our problems. All right? Okay, let's go down and look at our problems. 1 and 2. Example 1. Okay, first thing to check, is the problem set equal to 0? Check. Okay, the next thing, and I still do this to this day, so I would like to see it on a lot of your papers. A equals 3, B equals 4, C equals 1. And a lot of you, I know who you are, and you know who you are, and you know that I would be looking at you right now if I was teaching in front of the class, Walker Rule. You know that I want you to write this stuff down, even though you want to try to skip stuff. All right, so just make sure you don't do that. All right, so plug it in. X equals the opposite of b, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4 squared, minus 4a, oops, not a, let's actually put whatever a is 3, and then c is 1, all over 2 times 3. So x equals -4 plus or minus. And again, do this stuff under the radical all in one shot in your calculator. Right? Being careful with negatives. 4 squared is 16. Minus 4 times 3 times 1 is 12. So 16 minus 12 is 4. Okay? On the bottom, 2 times 3 is 6. Let me erase this a little bit. Let's just erase that right there. -4 plus or minus. Now just do the square root since it comes out to be a perfect square and put 2 all over 6. So now we have to split it. We have to do one with a plus, one with a minus. So -4 plus 2 over 6. And, oops. -4 minus 2 all over 6. So just do the math. -4 plus 2 is -2 over 6, which is -1/3. So that's one of my answers. And the other one, -4 minus 2, is -6 over 6, which is -1. And again, let's make sure that we write our answers in correct order. So x equals -1, -1/3. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. Plug it in, do the math, see what you get. Remember, no decimal answers. All right, next problem. So again, check. Is it equal, or is the equation equal to 0? Yes, check. So what's A? A is -2. What's B? -3. What's C? 7. Okay, so plug it in. X equals the opposite of B, which is 3, plus or minus the square root of -3 squared. Be careful with this negative because it can hurt you. If you don't put it in parentheses, you'll get the problem wrong. So just be careful. Minus 4 times A, which is -2, times C, which is 7. Okay, all over 2 times -2. All right, so let's do the math. The stuff under the radical. 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared is 9. I'm going to show this one just so we be careful. Make sure you get positive 9. Okay, minus 4 times -2 is -8. -8 times 7 is -56. Okay, now we have minus a negative, so plus positive, all over -4. Okay. Next, add the stuff under the radical. 3 plus or minus the square root of 65, all over -4. And now I check. Okay, so 65 is not a perfect square. And then does 65 break down into anything else? And it doesn't. So there's no number on my perfect square list that goes into 65 evenly. So I'm going to leave my answer like this. Okay. All right. So hopefully it's a pretty straightforward lesson for you. It's just plugging it in. Remembering what's A, what's B, what's C. If it's missing, plug in 0. Make sure it's set equal to 0 before you do the quadratic. And again, show your steps, people. I know you want to skip it, but be careful. Okay. So you have the worksheet to finish today. That'll be due tomorrow, and then I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day.